The Perth Scorchers for this year's BBL Supercoach. They're a fairly relevant team given they have their double in round two. So there are going to be guys from this team that are very, very relevant. Given that they are a good team, it usually means there's some good stats to be had across the batting and the bowling for the Perth Scorchers there. And you're not going to want to load up on All Stars and All Renegades for round one. So you are going to stash a couple of decent Scorchers in my opinion. And there are a few guys that you can target for round two, meaning you get them in round one ready for their double in round two because you don't have unlimited trades. So we need to get that sorted. And just a quick note on a few of last year's prices. We have Richardson that was 237k, which is just wild how that one played out. We had Ty and Berendorf a little bit more expensive than where they are this year. And the same with Lance Morris, who's a tiny bit cheaper this year at 148 compared to his 157. You had Ashton Turner, 30k more expensive last year. Ashton Agar a bit more expensive as well. So a few of their guys didn't go perfect. Inglis is even almost 40k cheaper. We have Aaron Hardy basically the same price, which means we know what we can get from someone like him. And Hamish McKenzie there was 42k, now up over the Melbourne Stars and is a little bit more expensive, but nothing too crazy there, that's for sure. But let's go through their predicted 11 coming into round one, and it's Finn Allen up top. If he is all sweet to go and play from round one in the BBL at 152k, he has the big strike rate, the best of the batters, I think, for T20 cricket that has come over apart from this year coming over, apart from Ben Duckett. He has a really, really big strike rate. It's a double in round two, which could be helpful. So if he'd had the double in round one, if he'd had the double in round one, he could have been an auto pick. So it's hard to hold him, I think personally, at 152 just being bat only. But I definitely think that if you want to take a bit of a risk on Finn, he could come out and score really well in round one, and then has the double in round two and could go back-to-back big ones, or at least one big one in round two. For Keaton Jennings, 117.5k. He's a nicer price, obviously, but he's not as an exciting prospect as Finn. Really, really solid. I think if you got a 117k opener who is an international at opening, I think that's a really, really good pick. Could it pay off? Yes. Could it not pay off? Yes. Like both options are potentially available, a chance to happen. That's for sure. Number 3, we have Hardy, and he's someone that I'm super keen on, as you saw from my structure video there at 177.8k. I just think he's the guy you'd want to hold. He's hard at the price for round one for sure, 177.8, but if you're not getting short from round one, then you do have a bit more cash to play with, and getting guys like Hardy, I think, are really, really good because he is the best player on this team. He's a good chance to bowl some overs. He's obviously going to bat 3, and I think that's the type of player you want, a really, really high quality Australian, T20, 50 over type player, and should be well considered in your side, that's for sure. We'll get into the potential bowling and batting stocks very, very shortly as well. But Josh Inglis comes in at 140k, and if he does get released from the test squad, and we don't actually think he's a chance of playing in the tests, and I think that if it looks like he's going to be there for the first bunch of rounds at least, then I do think Inglis can be a good spot, a good player to have in your wicket-keeping spot, that's for sure, at 140k, cheaper than what he was by almost 40k from last year. We know his quality. I think he'll do really, really well again for the Scorchers this year, and would be very interesting if he does get that release for that first at least few rounds before you may need to move him on if he was to get an opportunity in the test setup. Ashton Turner, a 70k has become someone that a lot of people are very, very interested in, and if he does happen to get some bowling in, that would be ideal. And I did do this analysis a little while ago when Ashton Agar, it looks like him and Cooper Connolly are very much touch and go, especially Cooper. With Ashton, he's seeing how he's going to go, but if he's not there, they do have a few guys that we'll speak about that could come in Matthew Spores, for example, that is potentially an option in that middle order, or they could go with a Matt Hurst for that final sort of batter's slot for that one there. But that's Agar. But for Turner there, if Agar and Connolly aren't there, is it just for one round? Is it for their double? Because I think you want Turner for the double in that case. That's 70k, 30k more, 30k cheaper than previously. He's also just coming off some decent scores as well. So Turner's definitely someone of interest that you could use as a double player in round two. And if he happens to be batting at 5 and bowl the odd over or two, I think that he becomes, he can become pretty important at 70k. Definitely. It's not a very high price. Nick Hobson at 78k is not someone you want to be too excited about. Batting at 6, not bowling. Mentioned Agar there. He's very, very cheap, but I think with the shoulder, with things going wrong with that at the moment, I think you can't go into a series with him when he's going to be touch and go in your side. And then we go into their 4 gun bowlers. So if we're looking at that bowling setup right now, you do have Aaron Hardy would be their 5th quick, when you've got Ty, Morris, Jai Richardson and Behrendorff all likely to play and have a really, really pivotal, important role. And then you've got Hardy as the 5th bowler, and then they'll probably go in with some type of spinner. And if they don't pick Agar and they go for Hurst, then that's when Ashton Turner would become really, really relevant there for your side. So just keep an eye out on the team that they're likely to select in round 1. And I think it's going to be the Hurst situation or the Spores, unless you've got Connolly and you've got Ashton Agar available. Again, when you're looking at some of these guys, if Agar and Connolly come back, then you probably lose the opportunity for any of those guys in the middle of the order like Turner to get overs. And it even does make it a little bit harder for someone like Aaron Hardy to get overs as well. In terms of their bowlers, they're all a little bit cheaper, as I said, than last year. Behrendorff at 160.8 is the most expensive. Always has a great year and always goes off in certain games. So you just want him to go off in the first few if you were to start with him. Richardson is so much cheaper, 107k cheaper than last year. So it's hard not to lock him into your side when he has that type of upside. But he did hurt his shoulder high-fiving the other day, so that was tough. But Andrew Ty and Lance Morris could both do an incredible job. I'd probably look at Lance Morris as more of a game breaker than Ty, especially as Ty gets that little bit older and Lance is coming into sort of the peak of his career, the peak of his powers there. So with this whole team, with a double in round 2, you're going to want a couple of these guys on your side. A few of them are going to have interest for sure. They have big scores on the horizon for certain guys. There's a reason that a bunch of their players are high priced. So it's going to be very, very interesting which guys you select along with your Adelaide players from the start heading into round 2. In my opinion, the best roles in the team are Aaron Hardy at number 1. In number 2, you've got Richardson and Behrendorff, either one of those guys. And with Richardson being a little cheaper, that can obviously help. And then I think just batting right at the top, Finn Allen, Keaton Jennings, usually seems to be a lot of runs at the top of the order from someone. And a lot of time it is Hardy and Inglis and the like, but I think Finn or Keaton can do really well at the top of the order there for the Perth Scorchers. For the bowling stocks, as I kind of just mentioned there, with Connolly out, we should see Hardy as that 6th bowler, ensuring him some overs for sure. Maybe an over from Turner if Agar was to be out, but they're likely to select the Spores or something like that, which could be hit and miss as to if Turner was going to get any overs. So bowling line is very settled, with a few players providing some value on last year's pricing and lack of output. That's probably what we want to see this year. Last year, they were all very, very expensive and it was hard to select them on value. And then just to finishing off, we've got on test duty, we've got Mitch Marsh. In that depth players, we've got Marley Beardman. I think he's obviously their fast bowling depth option, but they do have Matt Kelly in front of him. So it'd be hard to see him this year, I think, unless there's a few injuries. We've got Connolly, who's out. Matt Hurst will be next up on the list. He's 117.5k. He's a backup keeper if Inglis misses some time. And the question is, does he fit into the middle order over Hobson? Does he get over Hobson? Does he get over any of the injured spinners? That's going to be the question there. Do they play another batter, and use Turner and Hardy as their 5th and 6th bowler? That's probably the question for them on that one. Sam Fanning, obviously doing really well at the moment in Shield, but he's in the depth for the batters as well. Matt Kelly, we mentioned, he always seems to do a good job. He's a bit cheaper than he was at the beginning of last year. And then Matt Spores is the spin bowling all-rounder at 58.5k. So if he was to get that opportunity as a spinner, I do think he's 3rd in line. Does he get the first couple of rounds, or does he just get round 1 and then at least one of the boys are back and then he loses his spot? That's the tough one with this side, and just with how it's set up at the moment is with some worries about Turner, some worries about Agar, Connolly, and who comes in and takes their spots if they're out. For how long? That's the big question. And then Jai Richardson with his shoulder as well, hurting it, high-fiving. Yes, he came back on and bowled, but he's someone that is very injury prone, and it can be frustrating if you're looking at someone like him. So that's the Perth Scorchers. We keep it short and simple. We'll find out a little bit more about certain players and about how teams are going to be setting up, I'd say in the next week or so. So we'll get all these out as a general overview. You want to look at sort of the most important players in the side and want to try and get them in if you can, if you possibly can. If they happen to have a really good price, then it makes it easier to fit them in with some of the guns in other sides. So, Hardy doesn't have the most hectic price for us, but someone like Jennings or Richardson are a little bit cheaper and can be really helpful for you. So pick the guys that you think that work out. I think there's other cheaper options in other sides, so maybe you can spend up in a team like this or a team like Adelaide, obviously with the Overtons and the Matt Shorts and the like. So that's the purse scorchers for now. We'll leave you with that, and we'll get in and get cranking on the other teams and get those videos out as soon as possible for you.